Peace to the saints. I want to share some thoughts on Trump's United States, the experience of the American citizen under the America First regime, some of the plans with regards to America's international posture, and a few spiritual thoughts on money and relationships, and we'll go from there. If you have questions during the live stream, feel free to send them in using Venmo or PayPal. The information can be found at peacetothesaints.com. If you click support or maybe donate, I forget, but it should be at the top of the website. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have as we go through. If you don't mind, I'll be packing as I'm on the move. Firstly, we have to talk about Trump's America, which is one part government, one part business, which is to say the business community, which is essentially whom he works for, and then the third part, often forgotten, the American citizen. I would encourage those of you who have intelligence, common sense, and emotional intelligence, which would be the minority of you, to ask yourself and to ask this administration, when you go out on these adventures, what do you bring back for the American people? Me personally, the unending violence of the American white ruling class, the global white ruling class, I don't support it. But if I am going to be captive in one of their nations, then at least if you go out on these adventures, bring back some spoils of war. If you're going to go kidnap the president of Venezuela, what's the revenue share? If you're going to bomb Iran, what's the revenue share? I think they should talk Turkey. We should get a check every time our military is used because we're financing the violence. So what is the take? It's usually how mafias work. I say captive in as much as we were born into something we were never asked to opt into. And in many cases, we find that it's just very exploitive, and especially for those of you who are in poverty. Oh, it's very exploitative. The tax system is a joke. You almost wonder, what am I paying for? What am I getting? And with regards to Trump's America, we have the unfortunate situation of seeing the ramifications of poor public education. And politicians lie. This is not new. And at some level, I understand it. I get it, because average people can't handle the truth, especially women. Oh, they can't handle the truth. And so many of you may have been fooled by the Donald. And he's not unique in being a liar or a racist, but he is unique in the scale at which he lies and engages in racist behaviors. So it's actually very significant. As they say, there are levels to things. So number one, what's the take? If you're going to go on these colonial adventures, what's the take for the everyday person? Really it's nothing. Then here's the other piece. We early on heard the left, and I'm no leftist, compare the Donald's moves to that which we can observe in World War II Germany. And they mentioned the Gestapo and the secret police and the racial subjugation. This is essentially what we're seeing now in terms of ICE. The name changes, the process becomes a little bit more refined. Same stuff though. ICE is the Gestapo. The only difference is we don't have the concentration camps, though we do still have camps. And I shouldn't say we, I'm not a part of this. I'm not locking anybody up, And the funny part is the ruling white class, international, and mind you, when I say white, I just say that as a description of the people who are ruling and creating the havoc. This is inclusive of Jewish folks, because the ones who run the government in Israel are in fact white. And anyone who has any disagreements with anything that I say, you can DM me on Instagram for a debate and be available same day. I don't want to hear your feelings. I don't want to have a conversation with you. I in fact, probably don't like you. So just say, hey, I want to debate today. I'll be free all day. And then we'll message you and make the arrangement. But don't tell me your feelings and emotions. We don't care. Now, so the white ruling class globally, which is inclusive of the Jewish people, this does not mean that we're talking about white people in general or that they're like in on the take, because they're not. Even upper class, middle class, lower class white folks globally are kind of out struggling with everyone else. They may have some advantages within the system, no doubt, but they are not necessarily plugged in and a part of the control aspect of the system. So that's an important thing to understand, a critical distinction. Now, the problem is that you have the effective strategy of divide and conquer. And I think maybe the audio will be better if you're closer. So you have the effective strategy of divide and conquer. Low IQ people, uneducated, unsophisticated, inexperienced people, they will often suggest that, hey, that's not our problem. Well, it's not your problem until it is your problem, doofus. You'll hear many foundational Black Americans will say, hey, Marquette, that's not our problem. And at some level, they're right. I mean, you're not an immigrant, you're not an illegal immigrant. So in as much as that's the case, on the simple side of things, you're right, it's not your problem. However, doofus, you're also not a part of the white collective, nor are you a part of the white ruling class. So eventually it will be your problem. Doofus. 1 second. Marquette, in your infinite wisdom, might you provide us a comparative basis to example your logic? Sure, I'd be happy to. If you were to look at the Middle East or oil-producing countries, you look at Muammar Gaddafi, who spoke to the oil-producing Arab states, and he said, hey, we stand divided. We sometimes laugh at each other when misfortune befalls one of us, only to see that the same European colonial power that goes and kidnaps and kills one of our leaders, we laugh at him, and then eventually he comes to get us. The reason we laugh at the other one is because we have some petty squabble between ourselves, not realizing that we have to unite against a greater evil, a devil that is common to all of us. And so maybe you're the Libyan leader or the Palestinian leader, the Kuwaiti leader, or the Qatari leader, or the Saudi leader, and you don't like Bashar al-Assad, and so you let the white man go in there and topple him, and you laugh. Then he next goes for Gaddafi, and you don't much like the Libyans, so you laugh. Then eventually he turns around and comes to get you, and there's no one to help you. And let me explain why this is so critical. Hey there, we'll be down in approximately 8 minutes. Okay, I appreciate you. This is the car. Okay, thank you for your patience. Bye. So, Marquette, how does this apply to us? Well, you fail to build alliances. Sometimes the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And you have to understand that. Now, there's some friends you just can't make. Like, for example, we'll hear a lot of folks say, hey, Marquette, why aren't you cool with Nerd Fuentes? Well, because he's a racist, and I'm staunchly anti-racist. He's also a homosexual, and I do not support sexual deviance. So thereby, we cannot collaborate, we cannot be friends, because I have morals. Some things we just cannot forgive. However, there are other folks that I don't quite like their views, and we can find some level of common ground. There's no common ground. But I say all that to say, with regards to the oil-producing nation states, the Arabs, they stood divided, and as a result, America and or Israel goes in and abuses them, and they can't do anything because they don't have enough power together. That's essentially what you're seeing with the different minority groups in the United States. They're minorities within the U.S., but they're not minorities generally speaking, right? If you're Indian, you're not a minority. You're a minority in America, but not on the planet Earth. You're quite a large group. If you're Black, categorically, racial category, you're not a minority, but in America, yes, you are a minority. And so these minority groups abandon one another. They don't form coalition, and as a result, they get picked off one by one. Same thing you look at militarily in terms of geopolitics. You see the Venezuelans suffer. Do the Russians do anything? Do the Chinese do anything? Do the Brazilians do anything? Does BRICS do anything? No, everybody sits back. Some claim that they condemn it, but your words really mean nothing. You can claim that you condemn something. Don't get my computer screen, but you actually have to do something. And a call for peace, a call for fill in the blank. These all are things that are extremely meaningless. And you have to understand when people are posturing and know what's real. That's why in my book, The Black Box, I talk about in times of war, alliances are proven. You get to prove who really is on your side and who is not. And I can assure you that if you have 30 alliances, when the war breaks out, you'll find out that you really only have 6 or 7. Words don't mean a thing. You have to be a part of something. Precisely why I'm building the SAS, and if you're not a member, go to peacetothesaints.com. Many folks have already transitioned over. We welcome you, because the fact of the matter is that they're going to pick us off one by one, and most of us human beings on the planet Earth, we're sleepers. We don't do anything. There's no doubt that the evil white ruling class of the planet Earth has done many things that are extraordinarily evil. One is militarizing the entire planet Earth, which saps our resources and puts it toward death instead of growth. But another thing is the biological warfare. I kid you not. Every time I go traveling, it seems as though I always come down with some kind of sickness that just won't go away. It nags and it lingers, while having been healthy my entire life. And this all started right after 2020. Mind you, I was in China at the end of 2019, coming into 2020. In early 2020, I came back to the United States sick as a dog for the first time in my life. And we find all of the, did you get that hole in one? Yeah, you find all of these nagging sicknesses all of a sudden come out of nowhere. That's because your government, this is not a conspiracy theory, your government, which is generally the white ruling class around the world, they create disease, biological warfare. Many things have been engineered in labs. You can see public research, public commentary from officials talking about either the development of HIV/AIDS or the spread of HIV/AIDS being done by the white ruling class of a given nation state. I think it's worth considering the United States and South Africa with regards to the aforementioned. These are not conspiracy theories. I am not a conspiracy theorist. I do have formal education, University of California, Berkeley, and Johns Hopkins University. Most of the dweebs you see talking about conspiracy theories, these are idiots who have never had proper education. They're speculating or they're trying to get views. Candace Owens is one such person. We see her speculating and it gets a lot of views because uneducated people are very easy to trick because they've not had their thinking trained. They may be reasonably intelligent, but if you don't have your thinking trained, you're going to be unproductive. Also, before the Venezuelan situation occurred, which is to say before the kidnapping, I said that the wisest thing for the Venezuelan leader to do would be for him to attack, because you're going to be attacked anyways. It's inevitable. You might as well strike first. In my book, The Black Box, which you can get on Amazon, just type in Marquette Burton, The Black Box, I note that you should swing first, especially if you know conflict has to occur, because as I note in there, you cannot run from a fight. It's impossible. If you make an attempt, all you've done is shown your fear and ensured that you're going to have to fight, and it'll be a bigger fight. And the enemy will be emboldened. And this is in line with all thinking. In fact, this would be inclusive of the master Sun Tzu, who states that offense implies strength, whereas defense implies weakness. And in this case, inaction also implies weakness. I often remind you that, and I state this in The Black Box, do not believe that your enemies will not behave as enemies do. They're going to come get you, I promise you. So anytime that you're spending not striking at them, you're giving them time to strengthen themselves to strike at you. So don't be a fool. They're going to come. You will not be able to dodge it. The best thing to do with your enemies is to eliminate them wholly. And inasmuch as that's the case, I really have to commend the playbook of the Israelis because they've always sought to eradicate their enemies, and they've always been very aggressive to that end. And that is smart. That is how you thrive. That's not how you survive, that's how you thrive. And the fact of the matter is, all I've seen them do is thrive. They very much so earned that. Now, with regards to the Iranians, these fools have to know that Israel is in a position that ensures that they must engage in constant warfare until they've eradicated all of their enemies, and their enemies are many. Mostly not the governments of these various countries around them, because the governments are puppets. It's the people. And, in time, they'll be able to win over some people through propaganda and various other means of mind control and behavior modification. But essentially, it's the people, not the governments. The only government that is organized against Israel is Iran. So that means that Iran will perpetually be a target. And so Iran has to know that they're going to try to eradicate you. So all you can do is eradicate them first, or be in protracted war. The foolish Iranians have failed to make, and I don't know if maybe they're trying, I shouldn't say they're foolish, because the Iranians have been boxing above their weight for a long time, a very impressive people. The only thing that's foolish about the Iranians, the only thing, is that they've not learned that you must have nuclear deterrence. And so they failed to create nuclear weapons. And the Israelis have been very wise, and that they've been able to murder a lot of Iran's nuclear scientists to cripple their capacity. So if I was Iran, I would have created nuclear weapons a long time ago and declared it immediately and said that any military incursion, we will not react in a subtle way. We will immediately go straight to nuclear force, and our targets, top two, will be number one, Iran, number two, and before this even occurs, if anyone even starts posturing or talking like Trump is talking right now, I would have said the Strait of Hormuz, any comparable commercial waterways or transits of goods, we are ensuring that there will be no goods. So starting in 5 days, no goods can pass. If any good passes from any country, we are attacking. And I'd state that, and I'd say, and this is all contingent upon threats from the United States or whichever white ruling class entity is posturing. And that would maintain peace and stability. Now, when we say stability, Iran is not going to be economically stable, because the West is going to use the sanctions that they're able to enact due to the world being on the dollar for the time being, but also being on the Rothschild banking system. And the fact is that when you see protests, I got to get the toilet paper from all of these bathrooms. Be thrifty. Thrift is important. It's a psychological thing. You're never too rich to forget thrift. You are never too rich to forget thrift. So, common people can't see past their noses, especially if they've not been given a proper education, not only in the basics of arithmetic and language and logic, but also in character and in awareness of the goings on in the world. So if the Iranians, like say the Cubans, do not understand their economic woes are not a result of mismanagement and corruption, though there may be mismanagement and corruption, which we can find in all governments, the United States included, their economic woes result largely from sanctions, similar to what you would have seen in Zimbabwe and Cuba. So they want a revolution or a change in regime so that they can live high up on the hog. They can have more money and an easier life and more access to imports, not realizing that the exchange that they make to get those things is an exchange of their freedom. It's an exchange of their sovereignty. They don't realize that to get the temporary short-term financial gains, they're going to sacrifice their long-term nationhood, because the truth is America is looking to control and extort. And they'll give you a little bit of money in the short term to take control over your oil fields and your exports and your mineral wealth. And this is a classic repeat playbook of the international white ruling class. And for those who may be on the live stream of various racial and ethnic groups, many of you are fools and don't know it. I would encourage you to ask yourself, what is the proof of your intelligence? I don't want to hear that you have an high IQ. I don't want to hear you took an IQ test online. What universities do you have degrees from? What accomplishments do you have? Do you have any inventions? Do you have any intellectual property? Do you have a portfolio? Do you have wealth that you've amassed that's provable? If you don't have any of those things, you're not as smart as you think. Stay in your place. Listen to someone who actually has accomplishments, okay? So that's what you need to do. The reason I say that is because many of you imbeciles of every racial category, you'll say, Marquette, but the Jews aren't white. No, actually the Jews are white. And if you're a black person, saying that you're especially stupid, because what you've allowed the white ruling class to do is to separate themselves from their crimes. Hey there. No, we're a little bit slowed down. I'm sorry about that. We'll make sure that we tip. No, we're just going to go downstairs to the valet. Is that where you'll be? Okay. Okay, thank you. Bye. Yeah, so the foolish blacks, and sometimes you don't even know if they're actually black, because we have a lot of people in India and various places who impersonate black people online. Twitter recently exposed this, I think probably not intentionally. And if you're a black person saying, oh, it's really the Jews. No, you fool, the Jews did not enslave you. You've been duped by the white ruling class, which is not surprising because the blacks are very easily fooled, very easily fooled. And they've tried to separate themselves from their crimes against humanity by blaming the Jews, which is just merely a subcategory of white folks. Well, Marco, what do you mean a subcategory of white folks? Well, it's the same thing like saying Nigerians are a subcategory of black folks. Foundational Black Americans are a subcategory of black folks. They're all black. These are just different types. It's a different ethnic group or a religious grouping. So it's all, they're still white. And if you come around with this, like, oh no, the Jews are really the problem. Some of you came here on a slave ship named Jesus. It was not a slave ship named Shalom. It was a slave ship named Jesus. Those were white Christians. Those who enslaved you were white Christians. That's how you guys became Christians, actually. And those who colonized the Africans were also mostly Christians. That's how you guys became Christians. So it's in your foolishness that you allow these people to trick you yet again. So that's silliness. And then you'll hear some white folks say things like, oh no, it's not us, it's the Jewish people. Well, you guys are the majority. So, and some of you guys, and all of you guys are Jewish, like meaning like the whites, you are the Jews, or the ones who say you are the Jews. So like the lies will not work. America is a majority white country. So anything that happens in America happened with the consent of white people. So you have to blame yourselves. So what I'm bringing to you is just raw, unadulterated, unquestionable truth. Only a fool would argue against it, but the challenge is that there are many such fools. And you see, the reason that it's easy for charlatans to be persuasive on the internet is because when they validate what you already think and believe, however wrong it may be, then you're just going to accept it wholesale without any need to validate it because you already believe it. So why would you ask for evidence? This is precisely why you see that no one from the white establishment wants to debate me, because they know that they will lose. So they find random idiotic blacks, which are easy to find. The black people, very easy to fool, very easy to cheat, bamboozle, hoodwink, all of that. In fact, they'll even do it to themselves if you set them up right. They'll do all these bad things to themselves. And that's precisely why we do the work that we do. PeaceToTheSaints.com, that's the movement. And what I want you to understand is that the goal of government in general is to break down first your families, secondly your communities and tribes. If they don't break down your families, communities, and tribes, then they can't make you reliant on them, right? They cannot do that. And if they can't make you reliant on them and weak, then you will try to rule yourselves. You'll think for yourselves, and they don't want that. They want you to pay them tax dollars. They want you to yield to them and to be controlled, because those people who are not blessed with a natural grace, they need to feel good by controlling you, because you don't naturally admire them, because God has given them no grace. He's given them no shine. You see, Marquette, what do you mean? Well, this is why I simply say things like, don't deal with people who are broke and ugly. They are dangerous. And you might think I say that in jest, and at some level I do. But at yet another level, I say that with great seriousness to mean that people who are broke and or ugly have not been favored. And being that they grew up as a youngster not being favored, their whole goal is to make people yield to them, to admire them, to listen to them, to respect them. And usually they do this by force. Those who have been blessed with natural favor from the Creator, they don't have to seek favor from human beings. They don't have to force you to like them or respect them or listen to them, because you do it naturally. You attract to these people because these people are attractive. Whereas conversely, the people in the categories I described previously are repugnant. And when I say ugly, it's not just the ugliness outside of them, it's the ugliness within them that is mostly what pushes you away. And it is that ugliness is a great evil. And that's why you observe this with our leadership class. Because, and this is why politics does not attract good people. Because good people do not want to rule over you. Why? Because they're happy. It is the unhappy person that needs to feel bigger by ruling over you. That's why you can never get good people to go into politics. So hard to convince good people to go into politics. Let me grab a plastic bag, put that stuff in. And I want to thank those of you who may have supported this with your coming in by PayPal, and I don't even know if there's super chat on here. What? Talking about the shoes? Oh, thanks. Did you put that there? Huh. Gotta grab a shoe. Boy, this packing is a little bit tight this time. Got so much stuff on this. That guy's gonna be waiting for a while. I gotta tip him well. Now, if you don't mind, I need to talk to you a little bit about. Remind me, I want to do another Book of Dark Truths lesson. The Book of Dark Truths is a course. It was a 2-day seminar, essentially, that I did teaching you about human nature, the true way that the world works. And I want to do another lesson. And the Book of Dark Truths are like those dark truths, those Machiavellian truths that I really don't want to say to the public, in part just because they wouldn't know what to do with it. You know, things that are a little bit too heavy. So there's a lesson I want to add on women and relationships to the Book of Dark Truths. So if one of you who have purchased it would let me know, I will add it when I get back to the studio. I'll record that lesson. Hell, might even do it live, but I'll definitely record it. And if you haven't gotten the Book of Dark Truths, I highly recommend it, in as much as it's very likely you don't understand the way the world actually works. So it's very likely that's more so the case than not the case. And the Book of Dark Truths helps you get a grip on why the things in the world are unfolding as they are. Yeah, shout out to you for packing light, by the way. Well done. This should be interesting. I'm gonna put that drone in here, actually. That drone has that battery. Wanted to put the drone in a bag. See if I can find another bag. Can you give me that ice bag right there? Oh yeah, one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about. So, what? I don't understand what you're talking about. So anyways, one thing I want to talk to you guys about is your spiritual understanding of money. You know, money is a great tool of the white ruling class to make you feel like you never have enough of it. And I want you to have a different spiritual understanding of money. Whether you have a lot or you don't have a lot, doesn't actually matter, because this understanding is still true, which is the fact that money is the best thing to lose, as opposed to all the other values in life like time, family, friends, loved ones, health. If you lose any of those things, maybe you can't get some of them back, and also if you lose them, they're really critical things. Whereas money is a fiction. You know, money is something that theoretically you don't have to get it back because there's an infinite amount. You just get new money. You know, you don't get a new father or a new mother, but you can get new money. So it's actually not a critical thing, but they make you believe that it's absolutely critical and you'll die without it. And you have that dying feeling when you lose it or when you don't have it. And that means that they've won the psychological warfare on you. And that's an unfortunate thing. So you need to know that you must have a spiritual view of money. And in knowing that money is essentially infinite, that you can always get more of it, you can release that fear, whether it's a fear of losing it, a fear of not having it, all of those things can go. And they absolutely should. And you'll feel much better with that. Weird, I feel like I have so much stuff. But it's really the nature of this kind of case. This is an expensive case. It was a horrible, horrible purchase. One of my worst purchases. My assistant got this for me when I was in the Philippines because I needed a case when I was out there. So she went and bought this case. She's like so convinced that this is a great case. I can't say that I have the same opinion. Recently was gifted some Prada cologne. No one's complimented me on it. I wonder if it's too subtle of a smell. Maybe I don't do enough sprays. You know, the Persians, the Latinos, and the black church ladies, man, they hit you with like 90 sprays. I gotta up my sprays. Increase the sprays. Let's see what the people are saying. And I thank those of you who have been loyal supporters over time, because the beast is making every effort to silence people like me who are actual organizers. You see, the other people are just commentators. They're not organizers. They don't organize human beings. They've never built anything. They don't have international connections. They're not dangerous at all. And so, in as much as that's the case, they're not a legitimate threat, and the system knows that. Do not close the top on this. This could have been a major issue. And like really make sure that snaps on. Just curious. It's not supposed to work like that. Quality of people and things is increasingly low. The world is declining, no doubt, in some ways. Some ways it's getting better, many ways it's declining. This top is not properly functioning, but I think it'll get the job done. Anyways, But thank you to those who have been loyal, because there's no doubt there's an active conspiracy against myself, and I trust probably other people who actually organize, assuming they're organizing, outside of the white supremacy collective, because the white supremacy collective is not being policed at all, which is why the Ku Klux Klan is still not designated as a terrorist organization, which is extraordinary because they've actually killed a great many American citizens in their day, and this is all documented. It is documented, but as we know, apparently certain lives are not as valuable as other lives. We can kind of guess on which ones we're talking about. And still, ironically, you see the Foundational Black Americans saying, this is not our fight. Well, is the enemy not the same enemy? The ICE raids doesn't, reek of the slave patrols, which is where the American policing force evolved from. If you go to amazon.com/shop/The Saint and the Sinner and you click books, again, amazon.com/shop/The Saint and the Sinner spelled out. My book list gives examples of books that explain where the modern American policing force came from. So, those are basic things that you should probably be aware of. And the reason you're not aware of it is, I wouldn't say so much by design, except I don't want to say it's by design, because it's not your enemy's responsibility to educate you, right? You silly blacks let the public school system educate your children, which I think is the most ludicrous concept I've heard of. Very silly concept. But the blacks are very silly people. The Foundational Black Americans, we tend to be sensitive because in the United States, we're called black, and so when other blacks come from abroad, we expect them to identify with us even if they have a different culture. Black Americans may call themselves Christians. Well, if you come from Somalia, you call yourself a Muslim. And some of these goofy Somalis think they're Arabs. And so the Black Americans take offense to this, and the Somalis, rather than calling themselves black, which is a generality, which is for a racial category, they say that they're Arab or they say that they're Somali, and the Foundational Black Americans get angry because the Somalis don't identify with them. And it's just really silliness. Why would they identify with you? They have a different culture and history. Now, one thing I would say is for the Black Africans who practice colonial religions, which would be inclusive of Islam and Christianity. Colonial meaning you were colonized, you were enslaved by these people. And yes, there was an Arab slave trade where the Arabs weren't the slaves, they were the enslavers. And that's where many of you learned Islam. And in some cases, it's true that you could escape slavery by converting to Islam. Did you know that? Yes, you could escape servitude by becoming a Muslim. So it was by force, just like Christianity was by force. And any person who would deny that or defend their colonial religion is only one such fool who needs to be eliminated. And this is not to speak against God, godliness, Christianity, or Islam. It is to speak against the foolishness of defending something that was born of violence and wickedness and allowing it to masquerade as spirituality. There's little goodness in something that was brought to you through violence, death, and destruction. Now, anyways, with regards to Iran, you hear a lot of political commentators, they'll talk on what they hope is true. They like, this is what China and Russia thinks about Venezuela being controlled by America. This is what China and Russia think about what America's going to do in Iran. It doesn't matter what they think. It matters what they are willing to do. And I don't see China lifting a finger unless it involves recapturing Taiwan. And we've seen them making military exercises to that end. So that's something that's realistic and likely. Whereas China intervening on behalf of any other entity is not realistic and likely. So we have to know that we're dealing largely with political commentators who are attempting to speak things into existence. They're attempting to push agendas and narratives as opposed to just report. Journalists need to report because most of them don't have the IQ to predict. So they just should probably stick to reporting because their predictive skills are atrocious. And the record holds true on that. With regards to Trump saying that he's going to do something to Iran, I think that there's no doubt there'll be continued war between Israel and Iran, which means Israel and America versus Iran. However, the current rhetoric, the goal of it is precisely to encourage the elements in Iran that are currently violent protesters to continue on. Because it's always preferred that the overthrow of a government looks organic, even when it's not, because rarely it is organic, very rarely. The only time you see it organic is when it's overthrowing puppets put in by America. And the Shah of Iran is an example I'll constantly reference. And the funny thing is people say, well, Marquette, the Shah of Iran wasn't so bad. Yes, he was. That's why he was overthrown by the Iranian people. And it was not due to economic issues. And before the Shah of Iran, you had a democratically elected leader in Iran, Mossadegh. I want to say it was 1953. Someone let me know in the chat if you can Google it. But he was a democratically elected leader. He was overthrown, and that was by the United States. He ended up in a prison where he died, which is really sad to take a good man, a well-intentioned man, and kill him because he merely wanted to audit the affairs of BP, which was a white ruling class oil company. So that's kind of the pattern, is that democracy doesn't matter because Mossadegh was a democratically elected leader and the white ruling class dispensed with him. The white ruling class does not believe in democracy or freedom. These are abstractions. In the case of freedom and democracy, is merely a form of government. It is not an outcome to be desired. It is just a means to an end. And all human beings really want, average people, is merely to be able to buy things and engage in filthy behaviors because apparently human nature, the nature of the commoner, is low. So they want to be able to argue about sports, drink alcohol, smoke their vapes, and watch adult content. That's really what's important to the average person. At this time, if you're still watching, I would presume that you're enjoying the content. And so for that reason, you might consider clicking the like button. Shout to Frank, he's the only person who, is he the only person? No, he's one of two persons who have supported. Shout to Wayne supporting the work, we appreciate you. Boy, it's rough out here for a revolutionary. It is rough. For those of you who don't believe you even have $1, which is totally fine, I get that. You could at least hit the like button. It would be a way to show your appreciation and thanks. And again, this is something that I teach in terms of character, which is to say, if something costs you nothing, but it'll help someone else, as a good person, it would probably be in your soul and also in your self-benefit to do that thing to help the other person. For those of you who want greater things in life, which is the minority, I do want to acknowledge my students in the AI no-code web development practicum. We've had 2 sessions. The first one was 7 hours. Shout out to those men, 30 guys. Did a 7-hour straight session learning, practical learning. We do it in real time. Then the second session was 5 hours straight. Probably would have gone a lot longer. I had another engagement, so we did 5 hours straight. You really don't take any courses where you go that long. These are people who are real hustlers. These are people who want better things in their life. If you want to be a part of that group, we have a ton more sessions we're going to do. You'll also be able to see all the previous sessions. One thing I did is I went back and I put in all of the notes from the 7-hour session, all the notes from the 5-hour session, so you can see it written out, typed out rather, and also, so we have the notes written out, we have the slide decks, and we have the video, and in one case we have a spreadsheet as well for both days, so you can go back and review that. If you want to join that course, because if you don't know AI, then you are going to suffer greatly in the future. You will be locked into a low caste system. School.com, that's SKOOL.com/Marquette, MARQUETT. Click Classroom's the no-code AI course practicum. I invite you to join. If someone knows the link better, if that's not the link, let folks know. Anyways, let me make sure I got all the toilet paper. Got that one. Anything here I want? We got a nice fresh bottle of water. Okay. If you excuse me for a moment, you can look at the view while I'm. Oh, look at the view in there. Actually, that's a better view. Check the view in there while I'm checking back there. We had a lot of water all around. I didn't even realize. I'll make it hot to grab it. I want the water stashed. Do I have everything? You think so? Okay. Confident on that, huh? All right, now let's see if we can put this clown car together. Let's see. These Rimowa suitcases are supposed to be a great value in addition to a status symbol. I don't buy things for status symbol, I buy them for utility. As I said, my assistant, this was her recommendation. And the big selling point was that they have locations all over. And so if it breaks, you can just take it. And I've flown so many airports that don't have Rimowa locations to fix this inner lining thing, which is broken. So that didn't turn out to be true. I find Rimowa in the oddest places. Atlanta has the busiest airport in the world, but they don't have a Rimowa in Atlanta.
Someone asked, will the course be up for sale even after the practicum is complete?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll still be there. The key to life is that you don't want to be late. Timing is important in life. Just remember that, number one, timing is important, and then number two, show up, like be a part of things. You're gonna get, the reason I do these kind of courses as a practicum, I've only done 2 courses as a practicum. They were both technology courses. And the reason is that technology is more complex. It's more complex than the other things that I teach you. So I want you to be able to ask questions during it. The beauty of buying the course afterward is you get to see everyone's questions and you get to go through at your own pace. You can still go through at your own pace if you buy it now, but I just think it's kind of wise to be able to see other people's questions or ask questions if you so choose. In life, generally, haste can be folly, but delay is never wise. Okay, I think we may have gotten this first go. Boom, boom. Okay, we're off to the races. Let's see if anyone else had any other questions here. Shout out to Daniel, comes in by a super chat, the only person to super chat. He writes, I started reading the Black Box and I'm currently annotating with my mother in mind before she reads. And then I'll go back to annotate for myself. That's love right there. And family is the most important like by far the most important thing, something that we teach and model within this thing of ours. Shout out to Brad supporting the work by Venmo Rights Peace of Saints. I appreciate you. To those of you who are members, those of you who support my work, I thank all of you. You guys are the people who matter. You guys are the people that I do the work for. As I say, show love to those who show love to you. The people who don't show love to you, they don't matter. They're bloodsuckers, they're leeches, they're vampires, they're not good people. You know, if you go to peaceofthesaints.com, I think at the bottom it says, what is Marquettism? You can hit it and you can read through some of the philosophy that is core to this movement. And all of it pushes you in the direction of prosperity and happiness and understanding that there may be I may have millions of fans, right? You know, probably in the last 48 hours, about like 13 people like, hey man, I love your stuff, hey man. But none of them said, I am a member, right? So, you know, there's always a level of like, oh, hey, you know, holla Peace of the Saints when you see me, absolutely, you know, take a picture for sure, handshake. But I know that it's not like you're not really a part of this thing of ours. And I want to encourage you guys to always know who are your friends, who are the people who love you, who are the people who are your family, who are the people who are riding with you. Show love to those people. Until next time, Peace of the Saints.